stocks pulled up the bourse today?
A lot of that was yeah. Okay. A lot of that was the bank stocks as well, and they were basically mixed as we saw a general positive trend around for most industries. Fenly.
And how do you expect the bourse to fare next week?
We think the bourse is going to show marginal gains for next week, but it's still going to be reflective of the mixed results still pouring into the market. But we think generally the positive trend will shine through for next week, and so we would see the bourse gain.
Well, apart from the banking stocks, which sector are you keeping a close eye on at the moment?
I will be keeping an eye on the construction sector. I will be looking at manufacturing as well.
But why the construction sector, especially when cement prices are taking a hike?
Yes, but generally, you see, the government is trying to reinflate the economy, and they would be the major beneficiary of the $2 billion stimulus of the government. Now, what we've seen is that a lot of that money right now, a lot of the funds is still in the banking sector, and it's going to eventually trickle down into the real sector. I think the primary beneficiaries of that will be the construction sector, while the lower interest rate resulting from the excess liquidity we have in the market right now will above all else benefit the manufacturing sector.
So if you're keeping an eye on the construction sector, which stocks do you expect to show some positive gains over next week?
I would be looking at Julius Berger. I would be looking at Costain.
And take us through how the other 9 banks are performing.
The 9 banks have, over the past 3 months, shared roughly, on average, 60%. Their results still reflect a lot of apathy towards them, as a lot of shareholders and investors are still unclear as to what CBN's plan is with respect to the capital it injected into those banks. So what you saw was, while a lot of sentiment favored the key brands among those 9 banks, meaning the really big banks that most investors expect will continue as a going concern on its own without being sold out to any other entity, any other bank being forced into a merger and acquisition. We think a lot of that sentiment now has fizzled out, as a lot of people await clarity from CBN as to what sort of structure the capital they injected into those banks will finally take, and how much of shareholder stake will be diluted.
What do you make of Union Bank's results? What are their profit margins like currently?
Profit margin traditionally for Union Bank was somewhere about 25%. We saw profits dip about 371% to a loss of about 73 billion. Profit margin hence was about a negative 50%. But interestingly, what we saw from Union Bank is Union Bank reflected our own take and our expectation of that bank, given the impairment to its balance sheet by margin loans and the oil and gas sector. So revenues grew as expected of about 30%, which showed that it's still a strong player in the market. I mean that represents about 20% real growth in revenues, while profits dipped. And a lot of that was due to, we think, over 100 billion naira in loan write-offs it took. So while right now the bank is focused on repairing its badly impaired balance sheet, we think it's still a strong entity. It's still the engine. It's still an engine of growth. And just to add this, Union Bank traditionally among the top 5 banks has been the bank not running at its full potential. So there's a lot of pent-up growth in there that with an agile management can be brought to the surface.